Alright, welcome to part 2 of building the Machinist square. By now you have all 3 parts built, and as we see we have our blade, our handle, and our pin. And now we're going to put them together in an assembly to make a 3-dimensional representation of the object fully assembled. So we have Inventor loaded here, nothing's up yet. And notice, oh no, all of my parts are gone in my recently used files. This is because I'm doing this on a different computer, which is most often when you lose all of your recently used files. Remember though, I could just go up here, click open, and get to my files. So we're now done with our parts. We've finished making everything. So I'm going to go to the assembly now. So I'm going to click assembly and wait for it to load. In the meantime, I'm going to open up that drawing that we had. So I go to Goodies, Tech Ed, Cohen, Engineering Drawing, Machinist Square. There's the original video, and then there's the PDF of it. And remember, there's a paper copy of this as well, if you want. So it's pretty simple to put together. You notice the blade just sits within this slot, and it's flush on the back of this object here. And then in these 4 holes, we just put the pins in there, or the rivets, and this part would then be done. So this is our assembly view, and you'll notice it looks very similar to our part view. I have my main workspace here, I have my browser here, and I have my ribbon up here. Still have the view cube as well, so I can still put all my parts in place. To start off, I want to place my first component. So we need to look at this and go, what's our very first component? This is usually one that will not move. It'll just sit still somewhere. And in this case, that's going to be our handle would be a good place for this one. So I'm going to go up to this corner and click place and find where I saved it. Remember, you should make an engineering drawing folder in the H drive, Machinist Square, and handle. And there's my handle. I'm just going to click anywhere to place it. But what's going on? I can place more handles. So if I wanted to, I could place 1,000 handles if I really wanted to. So to get out of this, I just press escape on my keyboard. That's the magic tool or magic button to get out of any option that I'm currently in. So now I have my handle, but my handle can move around right now. We need to lock that in place so it won't move anymore. So to do that, we right-click on the part, when we go down towards the bottom and we click grounded. By grounding the part, the object will no longer move. It stays exactly where we left it. So here's my part, and I can look around on my view cube. So I can look in, there's my holes, and there's the slot and everything. So let's go back home, and we have this handle here now. Now I'm going to go back to place. And let's put the blade in. So I'm going to double click on the blade, and I can just put it anywhere. I don't want to put it on my handle. I want to put it away from my handle. So in place, again, I'm done, so I can press escape, or I can right click and click OK. Doesn't really matter. So there's my handle now. And we now have both. Now they're not near each other. That's okay. We're going to pull them together now. And our last component is our pins. We'll place those after we put these two together first, just because those go in afterwards. So I now need to tell Inventor that this blade sits within this slot here. So to do that, I use this tool up here called Constraint. Constraint limits the movement of an object. So we have this little video here. We have this object. It goes to that hole, and it locks in there. That's essentially what it does. It just allows me to make one thing stay to something else. So I click Constraint, and our very first thing we want to do is we notice that this blade is not in line with our slot. So I want to tell the blade that it needs to connect to inside this surface here. So this surface that I'm hovering over should be connected to this surface of my blade. So I'm going to just click on my blade. And we can notice the little arrows there, and I didn't click on any edges. I clicked on the actual surface. And I zoom in with the wheel of my mouse, and I click on this inside surface here. Again, not the hole, not a line. I click on the surface. And you'll hear a little stupid noise if your sound's on. And if I click OK, now my blade is roughly in there. It's not exactly, but it's at least roughly in there. And if I pull my blade out, oh, I can still pull it away. But if I look straight at it, so here's my blade, I can't go back and forth. I can go up and down. And if I look at the side, I can go back and forth. But again, I can't go, let's go there. I can't pull it away from that, at least this way. And that's because we constrained it to always stay within that, or those two surfaces have to stay touching. So essentially, this surface has to touch this inside surface at all times. And that is called a mate constraint. A mate constraint is when one surface has to touch another surface. So we can do another mate constraint. The top or the bottom of this slot should match to the bottom of our blade right here. So let's do another mate constraint on there. I can click on this bottom surface. I don't want to click on an edge. I want to click on a surface there. And then I just zoom in and I see that surface. Click on there. And there's my other constraint. So now my blade won't go up and down. It just can slide back and forth. So we can have our blade there or there. And it can still leave the object because there's nothing saying that those two surfaces have to exactly be connected. Just the plane of the surface has to be connected. So if we look at our drawing, the back of the blade lines up with the back of our handle. So let's do that now. I'm going to make a constraint. And I'm going to go from the very back of my object to the very back of here. So I'm on mate still. I'm going to click on and click OK, and it doesn't work. And that's because that kind of constraint isn't a mate. If you look at this icon, a mate is when one surface is attached to the other side of another surface. What we want to do is flush this. So flush, if I have one object, it's on the same side of the same plane instead of opposite sides of another object. So I'm going to click on flush, then I'm going to click on that surface, click on that surface, and now it comes together. So now those two objects stay on the same surface, and this doesn't move anymore. When I try to, it even tells me it can't. So my blade is in the correct space now. Now, you might notice, though, there is an issue with this. I have 4 holes in my handle, but do I have 4 holes in my blade? We don't see any. We never actually made any. So we need to go back, we need to edit our blade and make those holes there. So there's a couple ways to do this. I could open up my blade and I could make the holes and do some math to figure out where they go. That would definitely work. There's an easier way, though. I can edit this blade within my assembly. So I'm going to double click on my blade, and you can tell my handle goes gray, and in my browser, everything other than the blade is gray. So that means I'm only working on my blade. Only the white area is what I'm working on. And I can use these holes from my handle to line up the holes for my blade. So to do that, I'm going to start a 2D sketch and click on this surface. And we want to project these holes onto this surface. So I have a project geometry tool, and if I hover over, it'll tell me that project geometry tool essentially just projects one edge onto another surface. So I want to make this hole appear on this surface. So I'm going to zoom in, and wherever that hole ends, so like right there, I'm going to click. I'm going to do that for all 4 of my holes. And you can see now I have 4 circles in yellow. And a yellow line is a projected line. It's a line that you didn't draw, but Inventor figured out is there. Done with project geometry, so I'm going to right click, click OK, and there's my 4 circles. Now, at the center of that circle, I want to put a point. So I'm going to just click on the center with the point tool on all 4 circles. and that will be where I actually have my holes. Now I can go to my hole tool. Nope, wrong tool. And it automatically recognizes those circles, and I just need to see it is, again, a 0.125 inch hole. And it's through all, which is what I want, so I click OK, and now I have 4 holes through my blade. Now I'm done with this part, so I want to get back into my assembly view. To do that, I click Return up here, and we now see, hey look, there's 4 holes in that part, going all the way through, so I can put my pin in there and be done with this part. So now let's place our pin in there. I'm going to go to Place, take the pin, and we want 4 pins, so I'm going to just click 4 times, and then right click, click OK, and there's my 4 pins. Now Inventor recognizes that things that go into holes, so a pin going into a hole, is a little bit tedious to do with our mate and our flush tool. So there's another way we can do it. This is our typical mate tool that we used earlier, our flush and our mate. I also have an insert constraint I can place. And an insert constraint is for when I want to put a circular object into a round hole. So I'm going to select one edge of my pin, and then I'm going to select the outside edge of my handle, and there it goes. But the pin is now sticking out of my object. If I look at here on the toolbar, that's exactly what I have. I have an object with a hole, and then I have an object with a pin sticking out of it. I want what's called an aligned solution, where the pin goes into the hole. So I click that, it flips it, and I'm done. Now I need to do that 4 times. Instead of clicking OK and clicking Constraint again, I can just click Apply, and it resets the Constraint tool for me to do it again. And it remembers that I wanted to use aligned last time, so I'm probably going to use it again this time. I'll just go through and do this for all of my pins. Once I'm all done, I can click OK. And now I have 4 pins sticking through everything. And there's our Machinist square. That's it, all done. The last thing to do is to check the weight. Let's make sure we're correct. So I can right click where it says Assembly, go to iProperties, go over to Physical, Update, and our mass should be 0.248 pounds, so almost a quarter of a pound is how much this weighs. If we were to make this in real life, that would be pretty close. All right, let's save this. So save it where you saved your other parts. And when you get a block like this, just click OK, and then this is done. So that's your first assembly made.